All righty. Well, thank you, everybody, for waiting. We had an executive session before the meeting this evening, so we've already called the meeting to order and did our roll call. So if you will, we'll go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then after the Pledge of Allegiance, we have a short moment of silence. So if you can stand with us, and gentlemen, remove your hats. Director Jones, do you mind kicking us off? All righty, thank you very much. So, all right, do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes and summary approval for March 4th, 2025 and March 25th, 2025?
Motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Second.
Mr. Chavez. Mrs. Evanson.
Yes.
Mrs. Heights.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Lima.
Yes.
All right, and then next up, we will get into our recognitions. So if it is a larger group, Callie would like to have you all meet out in the lobby area or maybe outside so she can get a big group picture of you. If it's a smaller group, she will go ahead and take your picture just right here. So, so stick around before you leave this evening, and then so we can get your picture. So first up, we have our National Speech and Debate State winners and national qualifiers.
Would the members of the Palisade High School Speech and Debate Team who placed at the state competition or qualified for nationals please join me at the front of the room? This year, under the dynamic leadership of Coach Tracy Cermak, the Palisade High School Speech and Debate Team achieved impressive success at both the state and national levels. Coach Cermak, also a math teacher at Palisade, is known for her commitment to student growth, communication, and access to opportunity, and her guidance continues to shape a top-tier program. At the 2025 4A State Tournament, 4 students placed in the top 3. Mila Steppen, state champion in U.S. extemporaneous speaking. Ava Pearson, 2nd place in original oratory. Bo Roberts, 3rd place in international extemporaneous speaking. Kennedy Steffen, I'm so sorry, that's Steffen, right? Did I get that one right? Okay, thank you. 3rd place in congressional debate. Several students have also qualified for the National Speech and Debate Tournament this June in Des Moines, including Kennedy Steffen, Congressional Debate, Beckett Carlson, International Extemporaneous Speaking, Lanessa Asplin, Alvia Nicodemus, Gabrielle Sprigg, World Schools Debate. In addition, Mila Steppen and Alyssa Asplund were named Academic All-Americans by the National Speech and Debate Association. This prestigious recognition is awarded to students who have earned a degree of superior distinction, maintained a GPA of 3.7 or higher, and demonstrated outstanding character and leadership. The Board of Education and Superintendent Dr. Hill would like to congratulate the team on their standout performance. Your hard work, talent, dedication make District 51 proud, and we want to wish you the best of luck on the national stage. And also thanks to assistant coaches, Jasmine Fitzgibbons and Megan Burbach. Beckett? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Olivia. I knew it once I saw you. Ava? Thank you. Bo? Gabrielle?
Here.
Mila? Brent? And Kennedy's not here either, right? That want to, do you want them up here? or outside?
this is great.
Would Maria Calkins please join me at the front of the room? I'm going to hand this to you now. Thank you. Journalism plays a vital role in keeping communities informed, sharing diverse perspectives and shining a light on important issues. At the heart of strong ethical reporting are young journalists like Maria Calkins, who are already making a difference. Maria, a senior at Grand Junction High School, was recently named runner-up for the Colorado Journalist of the Year, a prestigious honor awarded by the Colorado Student Media Association that recognizes her dedication, talent, and leadership in student journalism. In recognition of this achievement, Maria has been awarded a $1,500 Dorothy Greer Scholarship presented by the Colorado Student Media Association. The scholarship is given to a graduating senior who demonstrates exceptional journalistic abilities and honors the legacy of Dorothy D. Greer, a pioneer in Colorado student journalism. Congratulations, Maria, on this outstanding achievement, and thank you to Steve Fox with Grand Junction High School journalism teacher and newspaper advisor for mentoring and guiding the next generation of storytellers. The Board of Education and Superintendent Dr. Hill are excited to celebrate this accomplishment and look forward to the future stories Maria will continue to tell.
And while VP Jones is coming up, if you want to read any of their stories, I know they have the print version of the Orange and Black, but you can also go on their website and read the Orange and Black newspaper. So I always enjoy getting those.
Will the members and coaches of the Grand Junction High School academic team please join me at the front of the room? Coaches as well. You stand right here because I'm gonna. Yeah, you already know I'm gonna butcher. So. Who is that? Berentios. And who is that?
Stop.
That's what I'm talking about. My guy. He's a coach for a reason. The Grand Junction High academic team brought home their 26th state championship at the 2025 Knowledge Bowl, and with it, the prestigious Governor's Cup, awarded to the top academic team in Colorado. They outperformed more than 60 schools across the state to earn the win, an incredible achievement. This year's team was led by seniors Stuart Collins, Brendan Schwartz, Zoe Plum, and Logan Bunce. With strong support from a group of talented juniors, included team captain Eric Turlow. When head coach Shawcroft couldn't be there, JV coach and GJHS academic team alum Noah Schmidt stepped in and didn't miss a beat. Under his knowledgeable and energetic leadership, the team rallied from a 9-point deficit to beat rival Stargate by 23 points, an incredible comeback and a true team effort. The Board of Education and Superintendent Dr. Hill congratulate the Grand Junction High School academic team on this remarkable achievement, earning their 22nd Governor's Cup and 26th state championship. We are proud of all your hard work and dedication, and we look forward to seeing you and your accomplishments next. Carmen Berentios. Logan Bunce. Stuart Collins. Tegan Osborne. Zoe Plum. Sean Prestagen. Brendan Schwartz. Neil Scott. Eric Turlow. Cooper Tesk. And your coaches, Cody Shawcroft, Noah Schmidt, Casey Smith, and Angie McGill. And she'll take all your pictures off.
Sarah, would you please join me? Each year, high school seniors across Mesa County participate in the Cesar Chavez Celebration Photo Essay Contest, a meaningful opportunity for students to explore themes such as social justice, community service, and cultural identity through the power of both writing and photography. This year, Sarah Akiberry, a senior at Grand Junction High School, earned first place for her powerful and deeply personal essay. In her piece, Sarah shared her experience as an Afghan refugee, fleeing the Taliban and finding hope, strength, and a sense of purpose through education. Her story, inspired by Cesar Chavez's lifelong commitment to justice and service, also highlighted her work teaching other refugees' children and the impact of lifting up others while rebuilding her own life. On behalf of the Board of Education and Superintendent Dr. Hill, we offer our heartfelt congratulations to Sarah on this recognition. Thank you for sharing your story with honesty and heart. It is a powerful reminder of the strength that lives within our students and the impact one voice can have.
Would either Linessa Asplund, her mother, or Tracy Cermak join me up front, please, to accept this? I guess it's you. If you could give this to Linessa. Yes. Thank you so much. So Tracy Cermak will be accepting this award for Linessa Asplund this evening. The Betcher Scholarship is one of the most prestigious scholarships in Colorado, awarded to just 50 students out of more than 1,500 applicants each year. It's designed to keep Colorado's top thinkers, leaders, and change makers in the state to continue positively impacting their communities. This year, Linessa Asplund, a senior at Palisade High School, was District 51's sole recipient of the 2025 Betcher Scholarship. Linessa is a standout student at Palisade High School, known for her dedication, resilience, and leadership. As an active member of the speech and debate team, she's competed in events like congressional debates and impromptu speaking, showcasing her strong communication skills and her passion for learning. Her peers and mentors describe her as thoughtful, driven, and always working to make a positive impact. The Board of Education and Superintendent Dr. Hill are proud to recognize Linessa as District 51's sole 2025 recipient of this prestigious award. Thank you for reflecting the spirit of the Betcher Foundation and uplifting others through knowledge, compassion, and service. Congratulations, Linessa.
And I just real quick, I believe the Betcher is a full ride to anywhere in Colorado, any university. So it's pretty amazing that she got that. So one more round of applause for her, even though she's not here.
And next will be the Daniel Scholarship recipients. Would Kylie Heathco, Kendall Staley, and Benjamin Romero please join me at the front of the room? Guys. Each year, the Daniel Scholarship Program recognizes high school seniors who exemplify strong character, leadership potential, and a commitment to serving their communities. Out of thousands of applicants across Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming, only 230 recipients were chosen. This year, we're excited to announce that Kylie, Kendall, and Benjamin, all seniors at Fruita Monument High School, have been named 2025 Daniel Scholars. Recipients are selected based on criteria such as strength of character, leadership potential, commitment to serving their communities, academic performance or promise, and emotional maturity and stability. The Daniel Scholarship provides recipients with up to $100,000 over 4 years to attend colleges of their choice, covering expenses such as tuition, fees, room and board, books, and other educational costs. The Board of Education and Superintendent Dr. Hill extend their heartfelt congratulations to Kylie, Kendall, and Benjamin. Your achievements are a testament to your hard work and dedication. We look forward to seeing the positive impact you'll continue to make on your communities and beyond.
With the members of the 2025 Leadership D51 cohort who are with us tonight, please come join me at the front of the room.
Garfield County is the latest Western Colorado.
Come back over here, Will.
I got you. This year we are. We got plenty of room. Water's fine over here. It's okay.
I got you.
Thanks, appreciate it. This year, we are proud to welcome the largest leadership D51 cohort to date. 24 businesses and community leaders who dedicated their time, energy over the past 7 months to become more deeply engaged in our work of our school district. Through 4 sessions, they explored the inner workings of D51 and heard directly from leaders yielding each of the 4 focus areas of a strategic plan: prepared and supported students, prepared and supported staff, engaged and supportive community partners. These conversations were thoughtful, collaborative, and grounded to share goal and ensuring each student in our district has what they need to thrive. We're incredibly grateful to this group for stepping away from their busy schedules and to learn, ask questions, and form connections across our schools and departments. Now, as graduates of the program, we encourage them to stay involved, whether it's in their child's school through D51 Foundation or by serving on a committee that helps to move this important work forward. On behalf of the Board of Education and Dr. Hill, thank you for your partnership and investment to the future of our students, staff, and community. And those members are Alexi Kellenhofer, Ashley Povin, Brad McLeod, Brittany Ray, Chelsea Mason, Cody Lister.
Well, shots were
Crystal
fired
Vicente,
last night in Grand Junction near
Randall,
Garden Village Apartments.
Ward,
Around 8,
Anna
the Grand
Schilling
Junction Police
Thomas,
Department was called to the 2600 block
Blackcraft,
of Belford Avenue.
Javier Sumner-
Police say
Javier,
2
Jonathan
New
West,
details in the case of a
Jason
Colorado
Cole,
deputy who fatally shot a man
Kelly
in 2022.
Dyer,
Andrew Bone, a former
Lindsay
deputy
Cox,
with the Clear Creek County
Lisa
Sheriff's
Castro,
Office, was sentenced today to
Melissa
3
Hoagland,
years in prison. Bone is
Nikki
accused
Moore,
of killing 22-year-old Christian Glass
Vaughn,
during a standoff
Sandra
back in
Fairbanks,
2022.
Shane
In
Anderson,
February, Bone was
Sierra
found guilty
McLean,
and convicted of
and
criminally
Tricia
negligent homicide. A
Wicketer.
search operation is happening in the Grand Valley this week. Colorado State Patrol is partnering with local law enforcement in Mesa County to conduct a surge operation and help reduce crashes involving pedestrians. The operation will take place this Friday along Patterson.
One more thanks or show of appreciation for those folks that gave up quarterly time to come and meet, learn about the district, be advocates for the district, but also this is our 3rd year doing this, and so we're going to be looking for the next cohort of folks. So if you're hearing about this and you want to learn more about the district, there'll be applications that will go out next year for folks to be able to sign up for this. And again, the idea is that you have a more intimate understanding of the inner workings of the district and can go out and share that. So again, can we give another round of applause for these folks giving up their time to do that?
Alrighty, well, unless you're just really wanting to stay for the rest of our board meeting, we will let you guys have a few minutes to go ahead and leave. For the bigger groups, please meet Callie outside so she can get your picture. So thank you for joining us this evening. We'll just take a couple of minutes for everyone to go ahead and take their time. Alrighty. Well, now we have lots of seats. If you didn't have a seat before, now you have your choice. So, all right. So next up on our agenda, we have board reports. So board, anything to report out on any committees or anything you've attended over the last 2 weeks?
This weekend was pretty busy for me. We went to the Masonic Awards, and just want to say congratulations to all the middle school students and teachers that got the awards, and it was a good thing to go to. And then on Saturday, I went to the Adaptive Heroes dodgeball tournament, so had some Fruita alumni out there and some different people from the community out there, so it was for a good cause, and all the teams that won donated the money back to the Adaptive Heroes, so that was pretty good.
We had a successful board coffee. It was very nice. Got to meet some new community members and had a great conversation. Personally, I've just been getting out into the schools this last couple of weeks, trying to reach all of them before the end of the school year.
All right. Next up, we have our D51 happenings and celebrations. So Sierra is going to come on up and share those with us.
Hi Board, I'm Sierra Colson, Marketing and Communications Specialist for D51 Schools, here to share with you the District 51 happenings and celebrations. First, I'd like to recognize our April Golden Apple winner, Katie Myers, a computer specials teacher at Chipeta Elementary. Katie has been described as the school's North Star, a compassionate and creative educator, a supportive colleague, and a daily role model. In her classroom, she fosters critical thinking and a growth mindset through engaging lessons in coding, internet safety, and digital communication. Beyond the classroom, Katie leads Girls on the Run, supports her Lego League, serves on the SEL committee, and continuously shows up for her school community. We're proud to celebrate her as a shining example of what makes D51 so special. Last week, we had the chance to celebrate National Assistant Principals Week, and what a great reason to pause and recognize the amazing work our APs do every day across D51. Assistant principals are the supportive leaders who help our schools thrive, balancing countless responsibilities while showing up with compassion, consistency, and care, and making sure each school is a safe, welcoming place to learn and grow. To each and every one of our assistant principals, thank you. Your hard work and heart make a lasting difference, and we are truly grateful for all that you do. This month, we also recognize the contributions of vital groups in our schools, librarians and paraprofessionals. Our librarians help cultivate curiosity, engage a love of learning, and support students in building skills for the future. A special shout out to Miranda Bailey from New Emerson, who will be presenting at the National ISTE Conference this summer, a great example of innovation in action inside our system. We also celebrated our amazing paraprofessionals, the consistent supportive force in so many classrooms. Thanks for everything you do to keep our schools running so smoothly. Last week, we had the opportunity to celebrate the grand opening of the new Grand Junction High School Tiger Community Gym alongside GJHS students, staff, and community members. This space represents more than just a building. It's proof of what we can accomplish when we come together to prioritize student wellness and strengthen community connections. Huge thanks to everyone who made this dream a reality, from our campaign co-chairs and partners to the voters and advocates who supported this vision from the beginning. The gym is already open for community use and is hosting local events. It's quickly becoming a space where people can connect, move, and make memories together. Clifton Elementary recently hosted a family night focused on supporting kids' emotional well-being, something parents had asked for. Families learned how the brain handles stress and picked up practical coping tools that align with what students are learning in school. The night also included eating pizza, sharing memories, and accessing needed resources like books, clothes, and essentials from the Family Center. Huge thanks to the Clifton team for creating such a supportive and meaningful experience for their community. Mount Garfield Middle School students recently got their hands dirty at Blaine's Tomatoes and Farm in Palisade. As part of their middle years program, they helped clear weeds, plant crops, and learned about soil, plants, and gardening in action. These real world learning opportunities help bring classroom lessons to life while building important skills like reflection, responsibility, and collaboration. Big thanks to Blaine's for showing our students the power of local agriculture and making learning come to life outside of the classroom. Shellady Elementary fifth graders recently took part in the City of Fruita's Arbor Day poster contest, and Miss Kinley was selected as this year's winner. In honor of her artwork and love for trees, the city will plant a tree on Shellady's campus during a special Arbor Day celebration on April 25th. Congratulations, Kinley. Thank you for representing Shellady and D51 with such creativity and heart. Finally, Scenic Elementary students recently had a cool opportunity to dive into the local art scene during a visit to the Western Colorado Art Center. With 12 different artist stations, each class rotated through 4 hands-on experiences, learning, watching, and getting creative. From blacksmithing and glass blowing to painting, photography, dance, and more, students saw just how inspiring and fun art can be. Thanks to the Art Center and all the amazing artists who made it such a fun and memorable day. That wraps up our April happenings and celebrations, but before we finish, I'd like to invite Colorado Mesa University President John Marshall and Grand Junction High School teacher Dr. Justin Whiteford to share a bit about their exciting recent trip to South Korea and Japan with our concurrent enrollment students. Thank you.
So that mic's on, this one's on too. You may have to.
Well, thank you. We wanted to take just a brief time. We know your agenda is tight, and we want to take about 6 minutes to quickly highlight a trip we did. Got a 3-minute video. Highlight what we did here. And by the way, this is my colleague, Sarah Hanau. She teaches Spanish. She's incredible. She's done these trips with me. And I'll just start off, and then I'll pass it over to President Marshall. At Junction, as you know, we try and create rich experiences and creative experiences where kids, with the leadership of Jory Sorensen, to get out there and create environments where kids learn in a different way, not just in the classroom, not with a textbook, but something that pushes the envelope. And so at Junction, we pride ourselves in that, and we feel like we kind of have this category. We've done this enough, and we're proud of it. And so we reached out to President Marshall to see how could a local high school, local university team up to do something creative and unique and something that no one's done before. So with that said, I will pass it over, and then we'll take a look at this video.
Thanks, Dr. Whiteford. Greetings, board. Nice to see you all. I will just say how grateful we are for the ongoing partnership. I know, whether it's the collaboration we have over CMU Tech, the work that we do with Concurrent, the elementary school kids and our athletic teams, there's just so many opportunities for us to work together. This one was a little out of the ordinary, and the idea is a 2-year experiment. This was the first year of a concurrent enrollment international trip to give students who, this might be the first time they've left the Grand Valley, let alone traveled abroad, an opportunity to do so, but also do so with the rigor of a college course. And so this trip was to Japan and South Korea, and if you've never traveled there in the spring, it is not Cancun. So it was a very different kind of a spring break trip for our kids. Next year, we're hoping to have another co-led team between CMU and District 51 head down to the rainforest. And so we're excited to see where this 2-year pilot goes. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Principal Sorensen as well for his support in this. Ms. Hanau and Dr. Whiteford were incredible with the kiddos. We had both college and high school students on this trip. And finally, Dr. Hill, who from the jump was a great supporter of this concept, which we didn't exactly know was going to work, but I think, as you're about to see, worked remarkably well. I want to say one last thing before I let go. I'm a parent of a Grand Junction High School. Let me think. I'm in year 4 of what I think is 10 years worth of Grand Junction enrollments. And you know, what the teachers and the staff have been doing for a long time has been remarkable, but just politely as a parent, it has been remarkable what's happened since Jory's took over. So credit to him as well. So with that, I had the real pleasure to get acquainted with a bunch of kiddos from Grand Junction. And if you have any concerns about where our country is going, I think you'll be allayed with those fears spending a little bit of time with these kiddos. They were just incredible.
Before we start this video, it takes a lot of courage. Most presidents at a university would say, well, that's too many variables, too many moving parts, it's too risky. I also want to put a shout out to President Marshall because he had the risk and the leadership to say, I like it. Let's make it work. We'll iron out the details in terms of the credit. Kids had a journal. We had to design curriculum together, and he had to take off his president hat and become a professor and jump full-blown. So he did a lot of legwork on this curriculum, and shout out to you, and I appreciate President Marshall, just your support, and we can't thank you enough. So this was our website, if you see here, and for instance, at the top, if you see the college credit, there's a way to click on that. Is that Callie controlling this? Oh, it's me. It's like, wow, look at this here. So if you look here and you see, I know. Yeah, no, you're not.
Yes.
I've been teaching a while. I'm not new. So if you see here, we designed this. It was no slouch. These kids have to do a ton of work, and so we had a lot of quizzes they had to perform. We had videos they had to watch. We had PDF files they had to go through, and then we collaborated. And really, Jillian Warner, our coordinator with CMU, was tremendous. She was the glue that got all this to pull together. And so let's. So we can wrap this up. I'll show you we took 10 days and condensed it into 3 minutes.
Let me just say one last thing. There were two spots on this trip that very few Americans get an opportunity to see. One was the demilitarized zone where we sat right literally at the edge and looked out into North Korea and talk about gaining a new appreciation for your freedom. There's just a palpable emotional component to that was really remarkable. And then the second was being at Ground Zero at Hiroshima and watching the students take that experience in. So you'll get to see both of those and much, much more here. But those two in particular, I would just highlight as something that you can teach it, but to be able to show those students that was irreplaceable. So anyway.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, it's rare in education where you have students and teachers crying, tearing up. That's when you know you punched it home. That's when it's beyond a book. And that happened. I mean, you saw these kids bawling. You're like, hey, make sense of that. Write it down. And then they would journal and make sense of why are they crying. It's one thing to be emotional, but now can you process that? That's where we thought it was pragmatic and the real learning was taking place. And so, again, short video. I'll show you here. See if we can get the volume here. Maybe it's on this. Oh, Is it just right here?
to the DMZ, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, because now that I look back on it, you could see North Korea and they keep their people in, and I don't understand why a country would want to do that. They're not free as we are.
Yeah, when we went, it was an amazing experience. It really opened my eyes on how free we are here, and it's just a great way to see how other countries do their things, because they're the only country that locks their people in and doesn't let them out to explore the world, but we can do that easily.
One thing I would say that really opened my eyes while I was on this trip was seeing the vast differences between America and South Korea and Japan. Specifically in which how America, we focus a lot on the individual and helping the individual, while in Japan, for example, they definitely focus on more of the community. And it's very interesting to see the differences in these societies.
Yeah, going off of that, we saw a lot of the community together, especially in South Korea, where during our dinner we had a bunch of side dishes, and that's supposed to be for like everyone could share with, so it's a very community event.
The most influential thing that I experienced was going to Hiroshima and visiting the Peace Memorial Museum, being able to see all this suffering and just tragic and awful stories made me really realize that this cannot happen to anyone in this world ever again. No one should be able to experience that. And it really, you can't get that knowledge out of a book. You have to see that yourself, and I hope that this does stay with me forever and I'm able to pass it on to future generations.
So, thank you. Well, you know.
It wasn't, Wyford didn't make that, right?
Zero chance.
Oh, good. Zero chance. I do want to reiterate what Dr. Wyford said earlier. That's one of the great things about the Western Slope is that we can quickly come together and create something new and pivot. And so do appreciate President Marshall, CMU, for being able to do that, but also just the leadership. You know, you mentioned Jory, but also just teachers stepping up and saying this is something we want for our kids. So appreciate that, appreciate the trip, and it sounds like there's going to be another one next year, and so hopefully more kids will want to sign up. So thanks for coming and sharing that and the opportunity y'all provide for our students. So thank you.
Costa Rica 2026.
Oh, Costa Rica, there you go.
Costa Rica.
You're busy.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Good to see you all.
Thank you.
All right. All right, well, next up we have our superintendent report. So third quarter business and investment financials.
And that's our only item tonight, so I'll have Mel come up and share that with the board.
All right, good evening. So in your packets, you have the third quarter business and investment reports. This represents any transactions through March 31st of this year. So we are closing out the year, making it 3/4 of the way through now. And just a reminder, these financials are always reviewed by our Fiscal Oversight Committee, which is a community committee with financial backgrounds that they provide a review of these. We also bring in guest speakers to them, like our health insurance folks, so that they can understand about different parts of this. They help advise us on our audit and on our investment policies. So just a really great group of community folks that we're thankful to have being able to provide oversight. So in our general fund, one of the changes this year was the change in the distribution to how the state provides funding. And so being able to provide more of the funding up front until property taxes come in the tail end of the year. It's really been an improved flow of funding throughout the year, and we're seeing that in our strong interest earnings. You'll notice when you get back to the back of the packet and look at some of the interest graphs, it's really changed the flow of how those are going. And so we do expect the last quarter to be lower than what we would have had in previous years, because now we've received the majority of our state funding, and now this is the portion of the year where we'll have property taxes. But it's really been an improvement, and so that's been an exciting change. And just looking at Q3, you can see that we have almost balanced revenues and expenses, where in prior years, our revenues were about 10% lower at this point in the year than our expenses were. And so that's just a change that you'll notice if you're looking year over year. Again, on the general fund, at this time, we've also updated our end-of-year projections, so through our fiscal year, June 30th. Our final PPR was a little bit higher than what we were able to include in the January readoption through the state's true-up process. So it was $38.65 per student higher. And then our funded count decreased actually by 24.4 FTE. So the net of that is about a $500,000 increase from budget that we're expecting through the end of the year. And then just again, those interest and investment earnings continue to be strong, and so we are expecting that that line item will exceed budget. So when you combine all of that, we're looking at our budgeted revenues at about 100.5% of budget, so really close, but a little bit to the positive. And then again, if you go back to that investment page, we are seeing that our rates on our liquid funds are beginning to drop. So they used to be close to 5% earlier in the year. Now they're getting down into the low 4s. And so that's really where we've been focused on our investment strategies of how we can retain some of those higher yields and really protect that ongoing revenue source as much as possible. And so the Fed rates are still forecasted to decrease even in this calendar year, with rates eventually returning to like the 2.5% range by 2027. So that's something we're continuing to look at and forecast as we consider next year's budget as well. Turning to expenses, that one is tracking very close to budget as well. We've been fortunate to have no significant unexpected costs to this point. Any year, we always have position vacancies of just turnover where positions aren't filled every day that they're budgeted for. And so for that reason, we're projecting expenses at 99.56% of budget, so really tight there as well. And so when you put that together, we do anticipate that our revenues will slightly exceed our expenses. So we'll return back to a balanced budget position by the end of the year, and we'll carry over any of that into the next fiscal year, where we know we have a lot of rising costs. Turning to some of our other funds, also in the third quarter, we received our bond funds from the 2024 election. So you'll see that reflected in Fund 45. So in that fund, our projections reflect our project budget of $208 million after that bond sale. And then our expenses are also been based on the draw schedule that we didn't have at readopted budget. And so those end of year projections are much closer than probably what we knew in January to the actual activity and the beginning phase 1 work that's ramping up. If we're looking at some of our other funds, there were some noteworthy pressures that we're seeing. And so some of our funds that we're watching carefully and planning for next year. One of those is our Nutrition Services Fund. So that one, the state's Healthy School Meal for All program has revenue challenges, and that's the state program. And so we're really watching those reimbursement rates. I think there's going to be a couple ballot measures in November that could really impact the future of that program and what it looks like, but then also just battling higher costs with staffing and food costs. And so we are watching that fund, and I know that team is really great about being proactive, and so they're already making adjustments for next year's staffing and costs to make sure that they have a balanced budget again going into next year. Medical fund is another one that we're watching. And so the Health Insurance Committee has met, and they're looking at a 17.8% increase to premiums for next plan year. So this year we were able to only do a 2.6% increase, which was very modest and great that we were able to do that, but the costs and claims are catching up to us. And so the bigger, pretty significant increase to next year is warranted in order to keep that fund viable. And then also the continuation of at least the current $500,000 transfer from the general fund, just to help with any rate stabilization. Where I know that committee is always really mindful of the premiums for employees, not only the district's portion, but just in keeping those premiums for our employees as manageable as possible. And so looking ahead to next year, we are right in the midst of budget season and planning for next year. The school finance bill has been introduced. That's House Bill 251320, and right now it's currently under consideration. But what's being proposed is that next year, the phase-in of the new finance formula would still start, but instead of being over 6 years, it would be phased in over 7, so slowing that phase-in down. And then thankfully maintaining the 4-year student count averaging that was originally included in the new formula. So that was one of our big deals where earlier in this year, based on the governor's proposed budget, we could have seen an outright cut of almost $9 million for next year. And so thankfully, we seem to have avoided that worst case scenario for next year and are expecting a small increase, about $1 million from our current budget. Of course, that's only 0.6% of our budget. So it isn't a sizable increase. It's certainly not what we've had in recent years as an increase, but I guess just relieved that we aren't facing that significant reduction. There is a hold harmless provision in that to the current year funding, so current year. No district in the state would be getting less than they currently are receiving. And so those are big wins, I think, that we're able to be compromised on through the session. And so I'm not expecting any large changes between now and what's ultimately passed, but this is currently what's being presented. And then looking ahead to 26-27, of course, next year's session will have to consider this, but what's currently written in there is that student count averaging would be reduced to 3 years, as long as implementation of the new formula continues. If implementation of the new formula was paused, then we would retain our 4-year funding. But I think it's important in planning to note that the hold harmless is only to our current 24-25 funding. And so really for this year, we know what our funding is. Next year, we're expecting about $1 million more, but the next year, that $1 million could be going away again. Especially with the change to 3 years of student count averaging. That's a significant impact to our funding levels anytime they're reducing that averaging, because we are receiving such a large benefit from that provision. And so we're continuing to work through the budget process while we're waiting on everything to be finalized. And the session will adjourn May 7th, so it will have to be passed by then. Do you guys have any questions on your packets?
So just to reiterate that last point that you made, so we will see a very slight, potentially a slight increase this year, but it's really not much in the grand scheme of things, and so it's not even going to cover increased cost. But we're anticipating the following year, if they go to 3-year averaging, and I guess the best case scenario is that we go back to the current year's funding that we have right now.
That's kind of the worst case scenario because it's a hold harmless.
That's true.
But I think that is the scenario that, based on what the state was projecting that we would be in, because some early models actually showed us moving back about $600,000 in funding. And so that provision would at least prevent that, I guess.
So it's just, we need to be more cautious about even that slight increase that we're getting this year, that it could easily just go away the following year.
Right. So I think that's something we always need to be mindful of, just ongoing versus one-time costs and one-time money versus ongoing money. But I would say this year even more so, where we know that it's could very easily go away.
Well, and I would say with as much back and forth that went into all of this year, just at the Capitol, I don't know that I'd be very optimistic next year that it's going to stay steady. So, I mean, I'd be hopeful, but I could see it very much changing again next year. So,
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. I think we know with reasonable certainty that student count averaging will change. That is something that the state is looking at and planning for. And so we need to be as well. And then just that there's going to be tight years in the next few years. So,
yeah, agree. All right, thanks, Mel.
Yep.
Any other questions, board? No? Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Hill, anything else? Is that it? Okay. All right, next up we have audience comments. So how many do we have on our list? We have one audience comment, okay. All right, go ahead and take it away. Director
All righty. Mr. Magnuson, you know the rules, you understand the rules. You will be allowed to talk to us, but if you're going to speak or put anybody down, then I'm going to stop you, okay? So you got 3 minutes, Floor is yours.
I was kind of questioning that the para retirees get $180 a day to substitute teach, and then the regular wannabes or aspirant teachers only get $165, and a lot of them are just out of college, maybe starting a family, that have a family to feed. So it kind of looks like a fat cat para-retirement type people, where the people that don't have the money are going to get even more so money. With their connections and clout, I've found in the past that they usually get the best schools, the best behaving students with which to work, and a lot of times human resources is not too empathetic to wannabes who are in these rougher schools and all that. I know the PRA retirees only get 110 days to be able to sub, but they still have the overwhelming advantage over the aspirant teachers. I guess that'd be the better word than wannabe. No other districts in at least this area or so have that advantage for the PREA retirees. And then a second point is that no other district in the United States, I think, has a limited sub-pool potential. I've subbed Fort Worth in the suburbs, Amarillo in the suburbs. They're screaming for substitute teachers. Up Valley, I was calling some of them today, and they just seem like really enthusiastic about the possibility of me subbing up there. But they can't really, the District 51 can't really say that they have plenty of subs and that they don't need any more, because I've heard firsthand reports numerously that, especially on Fridays, they're running short of substitute teachers. So there's something rotten in Denmark, as the Shakespearean play says. Is that because they're making sure that the fat cat retirees get plenty of jobs and all that, even if it hurts the students and hurts the aspirant teachers? And then to see that the substitute administrators make $575 a day, and probably the secretaries, administrative assistants probably make peanuts type of thing, and they're the ones that really do a great amount of the running of a school. I just wondered if we haven't learned a lesson from a few years ago. There was a big issue of all the administration getting big, huge salaries, and then the teachers, people at the bottom, just getting very, very little amount. That's kind of looks to me like kind of a subbing socialism. They should indeed have more of the limited government total opportunity that the people of Americans have. Give everybody a chance to prove themselves as a substitute teacher.
Hanson, your time.
And if they don't, what?
Your time's up.
Time's up. Okay.
Sir.
Well, this will continue. I'm sure I'll be talking about this for years to come. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right, that concludes our audience comment for this evening. All right, so next up we have our consent agenda. The consent agenda contains personnel actions and acceptance of gifts and items that are routine and can be approved by a single motion. Items on the consent agenda will not be discussed individually by the board unless an item is removed for individual consideration. Board, is anyone requesting any items to be removed? Okay, I will mention that the total gifts is $52,150.80. So we're thankful to our community for the various gifts that they have given to the schools, which you can see on the gift sheet that we have at the back of the room. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay.
Mr. Chavez.
Approved.
Mrs. Evanson.
Yes.
Mrs. Heights.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Lima.
Yes.
All right, next up we have our board business items. So we have 4 different items this evening. So we had last board meeting, we had a couple of different resource recommendation items, and then we had our first reading of policy IKF for our graduation requirements. And then a few meetings before that, we were presented with the early release calendar. So We will start with,
And real quick,
yes.
I forgot to mention this before. We need to actually, if the board's okay, we need to pull 12D.
Oh, okay.
I'm not joking, even though we keep having this conversation, but
Okay.
we're still waiting on some feedback from CDE. Just double checking, triple checking all of our minutes and making sure that we have everything squared away. So if the board's okay, we'd like to pull 12D from consideration for it.
Okay, board, do I have a motion? Okay, so we should have done that under the agenda. Board, do I have a motion to pull agenda item 12D under the business items?
Motion to pull 12D.
Second.
No discussion. We'll go ahead and take the vote to pull 12D.
Mr. Chavez.
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson.
Yes.
Mrs. Heights.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Lima.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so now we only have 3 items. So, all right. Is there a motion for the resource recommendation and adoption of the 4th grade social studies? Do I have a motion for that one?
Sounds like we have some issues with
Yeah, it seems like we have some issues with that. I think we probably need to table this one.
So do I have a motion to table this
Motion
one?
to table.
Okay. All right, so when we table an item, we do not discuss it. So there's a motion to table the 4th grade resource, so we'll take the vote to table it. Was there a second? Sorry.
I'll second.
So Angela motioned and Will second.
Mr. Chavez.
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson.
Yes.
Mrs. Heights.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Lima.
Yes.
All right, so is there a motion to approve the resource recommendation and adoption for the 12th grade, ELA resource?
Motion for 12B.
Second.
Okay, any discussion for the 12th grade ELA?
I would actually like to have a little bit more time to take a look through this. I used quite a bit of the 2 weeks on the 4th grade reference. I've gotten we're just about halfway through. There's tabs all through this book, but right about here is about halfway through. And so I just, with respect, I mean, it's 2 weeks and it's a lot. If I would have had it maybe a month ago, then maybe there would have been more time to get through it, but I take this seriously. When we approve anything that's going to go before our students, that falls back on us. And so I take it to heart to go through these things and make sure that it's something that I would want to be before my student. So I need a little bit more time to get through this one. So if everybody else feels comfortable on it, then you guys could move forward, but I'm asking for a little bit more time.
Any other discussion? What is the time frame that curriculum department needs to be able to make, because also with the 4th grade resource, we need to know what your time frame is to be able to, make a decision and get the resource ordered.
Yeah, the hope of our content specialists and teachers were if the 12th grade resource were successful tonight, we would ask for teachers' editions to be shipped as soon as tomorrow with some urgency so that teachers have those in their hands before Summer Institute and can plan. If that's not the case, it just delays that. But we're in that window where we're planning for our summer learning and where teachers are wanting access to materials. We were successful in doing that in the last few adoptions. Access in 4th quarter sets teachers up for more success at the launch of the next year. They have time as a team to look at materials and discuss. So I understand the dilemma and appreciate that you spent a lot of time in the other resources. So, that team finished the night before we went to CRGC, and from CRGC came straight to the board meeting, so we had time to review.
Yeah.
So that's what's pending.
Barb, how much time do you think you would need?
Could we, I wonder, could the board do like a special meeting in a week? We could do a virtual meeting to go, to either to give approval so that we're not 2 weeks out? Or, I mean, I don't know what your time frame is, so I want to make sure that you feel like you have the time to look at it too. I don't want to rush any board members. I also know we're getting into the season where it is really busy for everybody.
Sorry, just looking at a calendar really quick. I think that if I really stuck to it, I mean, yeah, a week. I guess just as I'm going through it, like sending my concerns over and my questions so that they can be answered as we're flowing.
As you find them.
Yeah. I guess going, and I don't know how many more curriculum adoptions we're going to be looking at in the near future, but just a thought on my side is if we know that we have like a potentially, three resources that we might be looking at, it might be beneficial for us to get those in the beginning so that we can already start kind of looking through them and then having an idea and then knowing later on which one we're settling on, I guess. Because if we know that there's three, then that'll give us an opportunity to kind of get through the meat and potatoes of it in the time frame that the committee's working on it. And then once the committee settles on something, then we'll know, what their final idea is on that one, and we'll kind of already have our everything together. I don't know, I guess just something for maybe future thought process on that, because it is a lot to get through in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it would be, if it was just one resource, it might be one thing, but the fact that it's two separate resources for 2 different grade levels made it kind of difficult.
Yeah, so just so I can understand, because this one started back in December, when they started looking, but at that point, they were looking through. Right. So the resources really came into play at what point? When they were actually second semester, and how do we remember how many resources? Okay. So I guess we could do something where maybe if we get to the point where we're looking at the resources, that we'd have to share all the resources that are being looked at. It wouldn't be a recommendation at that point, right?
With clearly defined rules, because formally the team makes a recommendation, takes input from the community, but they use their rubric and their
professionalism. We trust teachers to be experts in the process. Then that recommendation goes to CRGC, the Curriculum Resource Governance Committee, before it comes to the board. And they've been getting updates every month, monthly, and they review materials before their recommendation is passed on to the board. So I don't think we wouldn't want to circumvent that process, but that doesn't mean we can't build in more time for board review. I'm just thinking about a couple of key windows, that's all, in terms of outlining those processes. For example, we get better rates from vendors when we purchase in December. It's the end of their fiscal year, they're ready to make a deal. The sooner we get materials in teachers' hands, the better it is for teachers in second semester. Because there was curriculum work or course sequence work tied to the ELA resource adoption, that took up most of the first semester, which is why the second semester was given to materials. Yeah.
Yeah. I was able to get through most of, because I started the opposite way.
I did too.
So, and having gone through the other SAVIS with the middle school, and I was impressed with that one. I didn't see as much, and I had already expressed my concerns to you about the Colorado story. So that was the one, that I needed a little bit more, either guardrails on the Colorado story curriculum, or whether we wanted to look at a different resource, which, is the one. But Barb, I want to make sure as a board member, you feel like you have time to review that. So I feel fine with SAVIS, but I want to make sure that you feel like you can look at it. It looks like next Tuesday there's events for going on in the district. So we'd either have to look at a Monday or Wednesday evening to have a special board meeting to approve the 12th grade.
So next in our process, we do a purchase order and then we negotiate shipping windows with the publisher. Because we have the 6/11 adoption with SAVIS, we hope to leverage that trust and relationship to get the teachers' additions early, and because there are few teachers there teaching the course.
So would a Monday or Wednesday work for the board to do a virtual vote on the 12th grade?
I am busy Wednesday evening.
Okay,
I'm
so
at
would,
Central High School.
okay,
I can do Monday.
I can do Monday.
Monday? Okay, Monday, the
Monday works.
21st. Okay, we could do a virtual vote. Okay. Okay, so since we have a motion and a second on the floor for approval, so whoever made the motion, would you like to change that to tabling that one?
Will, you made the motion. I believe so.
Motion to change my motion, or motion to
You can
table,
just
table both
motion to
until?
table it.
Okay. So motion to table until Monday, the 21st.
Second.
Okay, and then we can take the vote to table.
Mr. Chavez.
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson. Yes. Mrs. Heights.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Lima.
Yes.
All right, and then, so next up, we have policy IKF, which was the graduation requirements. So these were just requirements from the state that we needed to update for this policy. So do I have a motion to approve policy IKF?
Motion to approve policy IKF.
Second. Oh, second.
Second.
Any other discussion for that one? Okay.
Mr. Chavez.
Approved.
Mrs. Evanson.
Yes.
Mrs. Heights.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Lima.
Yes.
All right, now we have, so board discussion. So these are always so awkward with, when you table items. So I guess we will get a different resource for fourth grade. I don't know, are we asking for a different resource to look at in comparison to this resource? Or are we asking to meet with curriculum department for guardrails of what they would do with the concerns that we had? So are you wanting meetings with curriculum department? Because I think we need to give the team some clear outline on you know, what you're wanting to look at with the resource, because they're gonna need to know what the board is wanting to do, so.
Yeah, and I'll lean on Jen, because I don't know that we've ever not approved a recommendation from the group, so I need to know what that would look like if
Right.
there was
So
a-
we actually need to figure out, we need to talk about what that looks like, because CRGC, that's the committee that I oversee and facilitate, because we take from the mill dollars. The CRGC determines which grade and content will be next for the next IRSTE, the Instructional Resource Selection Team. That selection team then is under the guidance of Jackie and her team. They come together, look at the standards, look at all the possible resources, they vet it, they go through with a team of teachers. It can be anywhere from 2 in the reading resource selection team, 22, let's say. They keep bringing it, whittling it down. Then it goes back to CRGC to that one resource that the team selected. And at this time, they only brought one resource. While they did look at 2 different resources, they only brought one resource to CRGC to review the process and then recommend to CRGC. The IRSTE recommends it to CRGC. CRGC then determines, yes, they went through the process, they did all the things, I bring it to Hill, we bring it to you. So that second resource has never been brought to CRGC. I just went through that process to tell you that.
So I know when, it was, I think, a couple years ago, I think there was, I know it was one of the science curriculums. I know that there was, I don't know, I think I went and met with Jackie about something that I had a concern with. And then it was, I think part of it is there's, again, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my thoughts together with trying to put this all together, especially for how the board and the community, we put this all together. So to even get through an entire textbook I don't even know what that looks like in a year. Plus, you guys do your professional development and put guardrails around, like, again, with the standards, what works in a book and what doesn't, right? Because the publisher is just going to put a book together, and not everything that is in the book works with the standards. Because I mean, I get that it's for Colorado history, but there's going to be standards that we've got to get to, and there's going to be some extraneous things in the book that we don't need to get to because it doesn't meet the standard, and we're not going to spend time on that. So I know when that happened a few years ago in some science curriculum, when I met with Jackie, there was no point in us getting to the piece that I was concerned about in the science curriculum because it didn't have anything to do with the standard at the time. But it was something that the publisher had put in. And so then for me, it was a non-issue because it wasn't anything that we were even going to remotely get to when it came to that point in the curriculum.
Correct.
So I guess at this point, I don't know if it would be beneficial at this point, because we don't even have, at this point, I guess, a backup for.
So there is another resource. And again, what you're talking about, so after the textbook is, or the resource is approved, another team comes together, the curriculum team, and then they come together and then design the units based on the standards using the resource. So what exactly, of course, we teach to the standards. The exact pieces in the resource that we use then is selected again by that teacher team, which again is led by Jackie and her team and the content specialist. So of course, that part of the process when the curriculum team comes together to design that, those units and those lessons and the exact pieces of the text that would be used are done by those teachers.
No, this is good, because, I mean, one of the major roles of the board is approving curriculum.
Right.
And so, you know, and if there are concerns and, you know, things that show up in the curriculum that either, you know, we need clarity on or we're wondering about because our kids and/or, you know, educators are going to be looking at this, we need to kind of know, because if a parent looks at something, then it's going to come back to the board and be like, well, what is this? And so I think what we're trying to do is just get out ahead of it or get some clarity around, is it going to show up in the unit or is it not going to show up in the unit? And if this is the best resource, I think we need to know how that's going to play out.
So context matters, and in some resource adoption processes, teams are looking at 2 strong resources or 3 strong resources, or only one resource rises to the top. How is it assessed? It's against a rubric that's determined early and rooted largely in the standards. The rubric has other things on that specific to assessment or technology and overall coherence with our strategic plan, our graduate profile, our teaching and learning framework. And so all of those are pieces of the evaluation process. In this case, I'd like to go back to the data because I think there is a resource that was also widely valued by the resource selection team. It's very different from what you have in front of you. It's more like kits, right? Kits with primary sources. That's the nature of it. It's a different approach to a resource for teaching the standards and specifically social studies. It could be a viable option. As Jen said, we've never been here before. And so the process matters and the integrity of it matters. I don't know that we would reconvene a resource selection team. They've exhausted what's on the market for 4th grade social studies. And if it's true that they had 2 strong choices, this one was clearly the favorite, though. I mean, you saw that in the data, that of the 2, this was favored for how robust it is, and I think also the digital components. I'd like to go back to the team's work and their recommendation, convene with Jen, and figure out if there's a way forward in the processes that we have. But that would certainly include CRGC. That group would need to be part of this process before a reconsideration of a second resource, I would think. Don't you think?
I absolutely.
Yeah, I think we need to go back to CRGC.
Okay, with the feedback that you received from the board? Okay.
Well, and CRGC wouldn't reconsider the first adoption. They would look at if that team had strength, and I'll go back and study their scores against the rubric. If that other resource has strength that merits resource recommendation, it would go to CRGC and
I
just
see what
that
you're saying.
resource.
Okay.
then CRGC would reconsider it, and if they approved it, would make the recommendation to take it forward to the board.
Okay, right, I see what
But
you're saying.
we, just like you set a meeting for Monday, we would need to work with CRGC, notify them, and pull them in, and I would need to contact members of the recommendation team, make them aware of what's happened here tonight and our next steps going forward, something like I've just articulated, after going back through their scores. We'd get those resources in our hands because we've sent them back, so we don't have them. So we'd get them back, start working with that vendor again, and if successful through CRGC, we'd have another recommendation. We would accelerate that timeline because again, it's late in spring, there's some urgency to it. So we would mean to do that so that we could conclude by May if possible.
My wondering is how might or how can we, like you provided the example, you came, you met with Jackie and that curriculum content specialist, I think at the time, to understand exactly what does a unit look like or how is a unit designed, what is used, what isn't used. We did it with our reading resource as well. We shared those units with you. How might we be able to do that with some of the concerns that are in the book? No book is perfect, no resource. We know and understand that, but how are we able to use, or can we, is there a way that we can design those units and those lessons that overcome?
Yeah, we call that our UCIA, our Unified Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Plan. And so it outlines in stage 1, what students should know, understand, and be able to do, how they'll be assessed, and then in stage 3, how we design that in cooperation with a resource. So it's teachers who teach kids, resources don't teach kids, but a high-quality resource matters. And it has demonstrated effectiveness in changing student outcomes. So it's our UCIA, which is required for all teachers in District 51, that defines the relationship between the unit and the resource. Unit by unit, module by module, K-12 across content areas. And so that's when we're talking about how we support teachers in that and articulate intention.
And
it's
how do we
through our
honor the
UCIA.
process?
Right.
How do we honor the process? How do we honor the board? This is within your purview, right? This is part of your responsibilities. How might we, or how can we move forward with the concerns or the wonderings, and how might we design around
Sure.
those?
For example, that's a thick book. That's why you're asking for more time. There's no way in a semester teachers will be able to teach all of that content. It's our UCA that defines which modules, which chapters, which works. We bring to you the whole resource, but it's our UCA that gives it definition.
Which is done by a teacher team.
Correct, yep. And that's built after resource recommendation. That's typically when that work happens.
Yeah.
So in our exchanges recently, we talked about accelerating some of that before the school year, if there's anything that needs to be addressed in a resource. Otherwise, it's done concurrently. You can't do it all at once.
I know that I don't have an issue with the book. I'm sorry. I don't have an issue with the book. I do appreciate the concerns that you wrote, so then I re-looked at it and everything. But if I know the other concerns from other board members, then I could re-look the book and then see what you're saying. At the moment, I don't have a problem with that Colorado story at all. So that would help me. So if you have concerns, if I could know what those are, so I could know from your lens why, then I could take a look at it. But right now, I looked at both of those books, and I don't have an issue with them at all.
I mean, I'd like to have more open discussion, but we've tabled it, so it's like now I'm kind of.
Well, no, we're in open board discussion right now. So, I mean, you can talk about it because the agenda item is just open board discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
you're good.
I guess, my struggle with this isn't, so I hear you, if we adopt a resource, then that's kind of when the building of how it's going to be implemented comes about. And I think that would be helpful and I understand it's, but I feel it's like putting the cart before the horse almost, because I feel like those are some of the things that I would need to know in order to feel comfortable with, some of the things that are in the book. But all in all, I'm struggling with some of the content. And, I mean, I said earlier, I felt like it was a very opinionated reference, and that it wasn't based off of, and I struggle with not having citations and things that I can see where it's pointing to, so that I can check, where did this information come from? When I pick up any of these books that I read for factual data, like there's citations, and then they lead me to other locations so that if I have a question about some of the content that's in that book, then I can check it myself. And I just don't have that. And so I'm struggling with that, and I'm not sure that there's any way, with this being the primary resource and not knowing how the lesson would be guided, how that would remedy like my problem right now.
And it's important, trust is important both ways. It's important that teachers know that they have the trust of the board to use board-adopted resources. It's in board policy that all teachers are required to use board-adopted resources. And so this is an important stage of the process, and one that we think is relevant, we intend to honor, because trust has to go both ways. And teachers put forth a resource and a recommendation that they believe in, and they need to be supported by the board. And their study of it was based on the standards. And so that will always be our position and what we bring forth. Our resources align to the standards. The state standards don't always agree locally with opinion or policy. And so that could be and is likely going to be a tension in social studies especially. But that's why we have all of these layers, and that's why we have a Board of Education. So where a resource has strength against the standards, you could expect us to bring it forward for a recommendation. We'll find the strongest of them.
Yeah, I think due to Director Evanson's concerns, we probably do need to look at the secondary resource. I mean, I think it would probably be good to have the conversation like I did when when you come, for the board to come in and talk with the curriculum team to see how you guys actually, build out the units when you guys are, looking at these resources. Like I said, the high schoolers are not going to get through the whole British and world literature book, right, in a semester. So it really helped me when I looked at it and you said, okay, this is how we sort of build out how they get through this book. That kind of gave me some real perspective on how you guys guide that process. But I do think, with maybe some of that concern, it's probably worth looking at the other resource for the fourth grade. Is this something that we need to get done by this fall? Is this something that by state where it's a must?
We allocated, set aside the mill dollars and determined our next resource recommendation.
Is the second one the one you said we don't have anymore?
Correct.
Okay, so we'd have to get that.
So we would reach out to that vendor to see if he could overnight materials, or I don't know where he's
Salespeople
located.
tend to like to overnight things if they have a chance.
But I want to look at those, I want to go back and review the rubrics and the scoring from the team and make sure that that's the direction that we move in. And we'd move quickly. We'd move in the next couple of days. I want to reach out to that team personally.
Yeah.
Make sure they feel seen and heard and valued and honored in that. And I'm sure that's the consensus of the board as well. And then go forward with Jen and making a plan.
Because CRGC too needs to feel the same.
Yeah.
And they were part of the process.
Are there any online resources? So for this one, we have the tangible book itself, and then there were some online resources that were available to support the resource. With this secondary resource, is there any?
Not as much.
Okay.
I think it's digital. I think there's a digital component. I don't think I'm misspeaking, but it's not as robust.
Okay.
Yeah.
She didn't study it as much
I
as
didn't,
it.
yeah.
That was the Erstes job. They brought us forward one. We studied that, looked at it with CRGC, so we have not dug into it.
Barb, did you share your feedback with all board members? Your email?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay. I just shared mine with the curriculum team, so I can share mine out. So, okay. I just sent mine directly, so, okay.
And more time. I'm noted. More time for review.
Right, and that just makes me think about how we set up our CRGC, that rhythm and that cadence to make sure, because it really is. Third quarter is honestly when we want to come to you guys for that purchase, with that PO, so we can get it in and have it fourth quarter, so we, by the end of the year, have that. The teacher manuals, obviously in our teachers' hands, fourth quarter, but then the training to happen in Summer Institute at the end of the year.
I mean, I will take responsibility that I wasn't 100% on the process itself. So when it went out to the community, or when it was made available for the community, and you guys were pretty certain that that was the one that was going to come before us, to be honest, I didn't even know that we were doing that until I saw it on Facebook. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like we're in the middle of a curriculum adoption. And so then I was like, well, it's going to be coming before us soon. And so now knowing, had I known what I know now then, I would have just reached out and been like, hey, can I have those books now? You know, like I need to start looking at them because I know how I am. You know, I want to dig through these as much as I can. So I guess that once in the future we get to like that point, because I think that would have been maybe even like maybe 3 or 4 more
cold.
weeks.
It was awfully
It's
cold.
always
so-
cold. It's always cold in
Dark.
those viewings.
So
It's cold and dark.
February.
But I do want to say, I am actually really, really proud of the process. I think even Dr. Hill has shared, I shared with the board when we had A&M here, and they came and audited the process, and they too were very very proud of the process, or very encouraged by the process that we have. And so if there's some way that I need to make sure that you all know and understand what that rhythm and that routine and the cadence of the adoption, I most certainly will, especially when we get new board members. And we pretty much do the same thing. We have that same, how we select when we have those open houses, and then how the CRGC is updated along the way. But we're proud, especially of the open houses. March 4th.
When we did the reading curriculum, I believe it was either the reading curriculum and or the other social studies.
This is our third social.
We had, I know, I brought 2 crates full of textbook options out of here. And so at some point, something shifted that we weren't part of it a little more early on, and until it was a full recommendation, which didn't give us much time to see what kind of, to really see what they
But we'll
were
make sure that
looking at and some comparison. So, yeah, I agree. It was kind of over before we got to be involved a little bit more. So that would just be one thing I would change in the process, is just making sure that we know it's coming and can get, you know, a couple of things that you're looking at and ride along on that. Then we're not cramming for the finals after the recommendation to do our due diligence on it, which I think we are all taking that really seriously and having to do that.
Yeah, I think it's just more of, you know, looking at it from a lens of, you know, whether, you know, an assignment came home, or, you know, you have a parent looking at it. You know, my son will be in 4th grade next year, and I was just looking at some of the material, and I'm thinking like, this is probably a little bit heavier over his head for some of this stuff, especially like the Black Lives Matter stuff. I was like, I don't know that this activism stuff is really appropriate for him at 4th grade. As a parent, I'm not ready to have that conversation with him. And I get that that's probably a civics piece for him, but I just don't, you know, that was what, you know, so Jose, that was my concern. And it was a very small piece in the very back of the book. But, you know, from a parent standpoint, that was the concern. At 4th grade, I'm like, well, I'm not ready to have that conversation, you know, with my child. So that's where, if we could get out ahead of it, that's where I don't want to undo, and I don't want the teachers and the team to feel like we are not valuing what they did, but we're just bringing a different lens to this to say, I think there might be some concern around these particular pieces in this resource, you know, and so, you know, and I think that's what Barb obviously brought forth in the email as well. So I just think it maybe would help save some time.
Yeah.
So.
The board has discretion to exercise the standards, the civics and history standards do call for those kinds of discussions.
I know, and I just don't agree with the state on that kind of stuff. And so from the board standpoint, you know, I would, you know, I think we would butt up against the state a little bit on that, as much as we can push to just say, I think in our community, this is why we have local control, right? This is why it's outlined in the state constitution. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but this is where this board understands where our community is to say, I think that's pushing it a little bit with our community to say, I think those are conversations that parents need to have with their kids. And so I would say, I think we're pushing a line here on that curriculum. And so where are we gonna go with it? And that's what I said. Where's our guardrails, in the book with this? So, Jose, what were you gonna say?
Get close, Jose, I'm sorry. It's hard to hear.
I think sometimes it's just difficult because we come from different lenses.
Sure.
The activism stuff, my daughter knew that probably in first grade, but she saw her dad doing it. So I think it sort of depends on each family member of where they're at and where they're growing. So having those conversations with my children or my grandchildren is a natural thing, and it starts early. So I just think so it depends on where you're coming from and your background. So sometimes it's, when we look at community, we have to make sure that we look at all community. So all community are not going to have those issues. That's why sometimes when you talk about the activism or some of the issues that Barb brought up, it was not an issue for me. So I was used to having those type of conversations.
Right, I agree, but see, you're the one having the conversation with your kid about it. It's not the teacher. That's what I'm saying. If the teacher's the one having the conversation about it, that's where I, as the parent, have the concern about it. If you want to talk to your kid about activism, you go ahead and do that. I'm not ready to have that conversation with my kid about it, so that's why I'm saying, now we're having, the book is now putting two people at odds about a conversation. If the parent wants to have the conversation, that's fine. So that's what I'm saying. You want your kid, you do what you want. My kid, I do what I want. The book is what I'm having the concern about, because now it's in the classroom. And then where do we put our teachers in the midst of that? That's what my concern was with the curriculum.
Yes, and for myself, I didn't have that as an issue that a teacher would bring up about activism, because it seemed like activism is part of our history. So I would not have a problem with the teacher bringing that up, and then my child coming and discussing that with me. So that's
sure. Yeah.
All this is really productive. I think that it makes me think back to what Jackie just said, like, because we can get into these same conversations even within the individuals who are selecting the resources, we have to have something to fall back on, and for us, we have to fall back on the state standards. And so, because this same conversation could end up happening amongst teachers and principals, and so we're teaching to state standards. And the resource may have things that are outside of that, but when you're designing the units and the lessons, it's tied back to state standards.
Reliably, that's what you could expect from us, is to put in front of you resources that are aligned to standards, and that our processes are built on that. And we recognize the board has discretion and also accept that discretion too.
So to caveat off that, this all falls into Chapter 7, in which you're referencing. And there was an online resource that was a chapter assessment. And I think the thing that I struggled with the most is that the things that are on page 214, 215, and 216 are allegedly state standards and are required to be taught to our students. However, in the chapter assessment, there's no assessment on it. So that's why I said when I sent the email that I feel like it was just like shoved in here for there to be a conversation about activism and the Black Lives Matter section. Like, I agree, let's have a conversation about it, but it was literally shoved in a section that made it appear that a death of a Coloridian was the result of police brutality. And it's 3 paragraphs, and there's so much more to this. Like, there's so much more to this. Being prior law enforcement, when this happened, I wanted to know what happened. I wanted to know, did these law enforcement officers do the right or wrong thing? But the only thing that's in this, if my child read this, they'd be like, Mom, cops are bad. And I don't want us giving that perspective to our children. So when I see this here and I read this, and then I look at the chapter assessment and there's nothing that actually assesses it for it to even be given to the state to say, yeah, we did that. We did that. And when I say putting the cart before the horse, when we say, yeah, we have these resources and then we're going to determine how they're going to be delivered, but when you give me this and I think this is how it's going to be assessed, this is how I think it's going to be assessed. So
That's the opportunity for us to talk, because that's not necessarily true. That assessment may not be the assessment that we use for that unit. It would come down to the design team.
Yeah, it's, what you're describing is a constant conversation in education. It's that iterative approach, it's reciprocal, what comes first, and how do we keep making adjustments? And so we commit to continuous improvement. In our resource adoption of English language arts, we've made many assessment changes and shifts to better align with the standards. So that's why we're employed, and employee team is to do that work. And at the same time, high quality resources do matter, because what do teachers have currently in 4th grade to support them teaching social studies? They don't have anything. And so it's important that we provide them with resources so the material can better be taught.
And I'm gonna have to have like some kind of clarity on how this would be taught, how it would be assessed. And if that's what comes after this process, then I would have a really hard time voting on it if I didn't have that knowledge. You know what I mean? Because you're saying, trust me. And I I want to, but we were put here to protect these kids. And I'm not saying that you're doing anything to hurt them. Please don't think I'm trying to say that. But I just feel like the community put us here because they knew our values. They know where we stand, each and every one of us, all 5 of us. And so if a parent, I don't know how much of a turnout you guys had for the community viewing of this. It sounds horrible. I sound like I'm talking about a funeral of community viewing, but yeah,
Open house.
yeah, open house. There we go.
Yep.
So for the community open house. But I feel like and you know what? And again, this is where I compel you parents to like be involved. You know, I mean, we're not the workhorses. We are not the scapegoats. Like, if you guys want to be involved, then be involved. Come out and look. You know, we can't be the only ones holding the torch and running into the chaos. Like, but like, I look at myself as if I wasn't sitting in this position, how would I go about, you know, addressing this? And so I know that a lot of these people have voted us into these positions to be their mouthpiece, if you will. And so that's my struggle with it. You know, just knowing that, and now knowing that it kind of like happens after the fact. Like, if we say, yes, this is the resource that we want, and then it's decided how it's implemented. And so I guess that's my struggle with it also, with the content. So if I had a better ideology of how this was going to be presented or tested, or the conversations that were going to be had, and I do understand, like, each teacher teaches differently. So, you know, this could be at Thunder Mountain, and a 4th grade teacher could teach it one way, and it could be at Wingate, and a 4th grade teacher could teach it a little differently with a different spin, just because we all have different life experiences. And so, like, I'm thinking about, like, what are the guardrails on that also? You know, like, how are we maintaining, I don't know, just the bumpers on that also? So these are just things that I struggle with when I look at resources, and especially when I'm not seeing that it's being assessed in the documents that we were given. Because my understanding is that these chapter assessments were how it was going to be assessed. And then I'm like, it's not even being assessed, so what's the point of it being here? So.
Oh, that's good feedback. So, so maybe you guys could also get with Barb or new board members if they need to have a better understanding of kind of what happens after the adoption of the curriculum. I know that really helped me. So of just kind of seeing how that, you know, unfolds afterwards. And then if we could maybe see, you guys could look at it, the secondary option as well. Is that what the board is asking for? Looking at a secondary option?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Something I forgot earlier, I don't know if I mentioned this last meeting or not, but Dr. Hill and Jose and myself got to go to New Emerson and do the PBL on the Royce Hurst, and they all had some interesting little solutions and how they were going to raise money and shelters and things like that, and different things they're doing. They're having a bake sale, donate the monies to try and raise shelters and things like that. So it was really interesting. And the 27th on a Sunday, I think it's next Sunday, isn't it? Yeah, the 27th over at Orchard Mesa Middle School. Dr. Hill and I will be playing, playing basketball against the
Playing basketball.
the Globetrotters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't shot a hoop in years.
We'll
but-
see who plays basketball.
Yeah, we'll watch them play basketball. The dogs.
Racers.
Yes, dogs and cats and
Nice.
Gerbils.
I don't know, animals. Sorry, I forgot to mention that earlier.
Good. All right, any other events or any other things, board?
I don't think so.
Okay, so next up, so we will have a special board meeting on the 21st virtually, so we can look at the 12th grade adoption. And I guess if there is new information on the 4th grade one, we could maybe include that. So that will be released 24 hours ahead of time for what will be on that meeting. And then we have a May 6th meeting and a May 20th meeting, so. And then graduations are coming up, I can't believe it.
They are.
It's already crazy, so. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, do we, oh, for the charter, okay, sorry, no motion to adjourn, back up. We need a date to, no? Okay. We need a date for
For the community meeting.
the community
for the
meetings for the
charter
charters. Yes.
Which, the ones we had narrowed it between the board, y'all had told me that you would be able to do are either on a Saturday, May 3rd or May 17th, like a Saturday coffee. Or if it was during the week, we have May 21st or May 27th, which I know one of those is a Wednesday.
Yeah, the 21st is a Wednesday. I can do, what times are we looking at?
If we do it during the week, it would be an evening, so the community could attend. Otherwise, the first two, which I believe are what, Ms. Marsh, you'd like the earlier dates, the 3rd or the 17th?
Earlier the better. Yeah. Yeah, so, so for the, yeah, so for the twoest new board members, so with the charter school applications, the community they either for or against, gets to come and the board just sits and listens, and then these are recorded as well. So we did them a few years ago, we doubled up at a board coffee, and we would sit, and then people will, advocate. Usually it's those advocating for the charter, and then we just sit and listen, that's all. So, so we just need a couple of board members. I mean, we can all be there, but it's usually good if at least a couple board members can be at these community meetings. So.
You said if it's a weekend, what are the hours?
And we're gonna make these open to all the charters? All three that have applied. Okay, so. Can you repeat the dates again, Amy?
Yes, either Saturday, May 3rd, or Saturday, May 17th, like a coffee time, like we usually do 9 to 11 for those.
We could do a couple dates too. We don't, do you guys wanna,
We should do it all at once.
just all at once?
Yes.
Okay.
It's so, I mean, I'm just looking at this mess that is my calendar, and there's no way I'm gonna find 2 days to
Okay.
do this.
Or if,
Right.
Okay, I could do Saturday, okay, so,
so Saturday, the 3rd or 17th, or if we do during the week in the evening, it'll be May 21st or May 27th.
So I'm out the 21st through the end of the month.
okay, I could do the 3rd or the 17th.
I could do the 17th. 17th it is.
17th.
May 17th?
17th, yep.
Okay.
Done.
And would y'all prefer to have it in this room, or would you prefer, okay,
Yeah,
yes, here?
let's
Yeah, we need a big enough room.
Yep.
9.
9?
9.
What, 9?
9? 9 a.m.?
9 a.m.?
Yep.
And scheduled till 11, 9 to 11?
Yeah, 9 to 11.
And then did y'all have a time for the special virtual meeting next Monday?
Oh, yeah, Monday, do you guys?
5.
5, does 5 work? Well,
We don't need Dr. Hill.
5 work for the 21st?
Yes.
Okay. 5 o'clock. We'll just do 5. Yeah, just keep it at
Okay.
5.
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you for any other housekeeping? No other things we need to get on our calendar? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. All right, thank you all. Have a good evening.